Hey there, how's it going? My name is Don. I'm a co-founder here at Hamilton Sales, and I'm the lead strategist responsible for creating flows, creating for campaigns, creating marketing strategies for all of our clients. And so far in 2023, we've done well over $2 million in email revenue. So I just wanted to really deep dive into how we've done that, and the biggest revenue generator for us, and basically 99% of all brands or email revenue is always going to be the welcome series. So it's incredibly important that you get this one right. Every strategy obviously is going to be specific for your brand, but this is going to be a great place to start. By the end of this video, you're going to have a really good understanding of how to create a good welcome series for you and for your brand. So I'm going to walk through you guys a couple of things here, basically just the end-to-end of creating and designing a really good welcome series, and obviously one that converts super well for your brand. So we're going to essentially be walking through how you want to think about the welcome series, how many emails you want to be including, the primary content focus of each individual email that you're going to be sending out, the timing between your emails, the Klaviyo logic and the settings that you want to be including. And then, of course, once you get that built out, how to actually optimize your welcome series properly over time. We'll finish off with some examples and then we'll do a little bit of a roundup. So let's just get stuck right into this one. Alrighty, so before we get into the fun stuff of how to write a welcome series, or what type of content to include, or the strategies or the tactics or all of that cool stuff, which is great, we actually just want to first slow down and focus on the fundamentals of just marketing and how to actually think about this welcome series before you write it. So again, your welcome series, it actually is one of your major touch points with a customer, right? One of the first major touch points. And it's always going to be your most important flow. So it's crucial to get this one right, because the welcome series is literally your first impression on the email side of things with a customer, right? So really take your time to get this one right, because it is going to be your most highly converting asset that essentially just works on autopilot because it is a flow. So take your time here, get it right once, and then just let it generate your revenue for life. So you have to actually remember here, right, that when someone is signing up for your newsletter, 99% of the time they're either from paid advertising or they might be organic from like Google or social media. Very rarely will someone join your list because, word of mouth referral, right? Does happen, but very rarely. But what that basically means is that when someone signs up to your email list via your pop-up offer, and if you need help with your pop-up offer, we do have a video on that, which will be linked in the description below. But again, if someone's signing up to your email list via pop-up offer, they already have some level of awareness about your brand, and then they've proven that they have interest with intention, right, by actually signing up to your email list, right? So they've actually directly told you that I want to receive marketing communication from your brand, right? So based on the marketing funnel, right, potential customers joining your welcome series, they're actually at the consideration point of the marketing journey. So I found this one online. Because it's found online, the second part here says internet, but obviously that's supposed to be interest. But essentially what we're looking at here, right, is awareness is kind of that top of funnel traffic. So this would typically be found on like social media, might be your Instagram, might be Facebook, could be TikTok. And then from there, interest is at that point when someone signs up to your email list. So now I've actually proven that I'm interested in your products or in your brand. So with that in mind, now we essentially need to keep in mind that the welcome series from here on is designed to guide them through the next stages of the customer journey, right? So we want to take them through consideration, and this is where customers start to consider your brand for whatever purchase they might be making. And then we start taking them through intention. This is where customers start browsing your brand, browsing products. And this is with the intent of actually purchasing or making a bit more of an informed decision. Then there is evaluation. This is where customers begin to choose between viable options for your need, right? If I'm buying a phone, do I want Samsung or do I want Apple, right? Do I want the latest iPhone or do I want the latest Samsung? And then lastly, you have purchase, and this is obviously just where customers purchase your products. So this is how you want to think about your welcome series. Again, as a bit of a roundup, you want to remember that we are now taking your customers through the consideration, intention, evaluation, and purchase part of the marketing journey. And that these people, we can already assume they understand some, baseline level of understanding about your brand, what you guys do, what you guys are about, but now they're interested to hear more. So from here, let's dive into how many emails to actually include in this welcome series. Starting with how many emails do you actually include inside of a welcome series. But before we kind of break this down, I do want to quickly touch on a bit of a mindset switch that we have with a lot of the founders that we work with. And that's they're always like, I don't want to be sending, heaps of emails out every day. I don't want to be spamming my email list. I don't want to annoy them. And while that's all very true and it's a very valid concern, we also have to remember here, right, that these people have literally given us express permission to send them marketing content, right? And as long as the content that we send them is engaging, it's valuable, it's entertaining, it's interesting, and it's relevant to what they want to hear, it is completely fine to be sending them a couple of emails per week. In fact, they'll actually really appreciate being part of your brand in that way. So now that that's out of the way, again, to kind of answer the question of how many emails to include, it will vary from brand to brand, but a great starting point and a kind of a safe bet is going to be 4 to 7 emails. So the easiest way to know how many emails to include is to pretty much assess what content is crucial for your customers to know before they buy or while they're being nurtured into buying your products. So we'll touch more on that in the section after this. And another thing to note is once you begin optimizing your welcome series, which we will be covering again later in this video, you will likely be expanding your welcome series depending on what metrics that you see. But again, I'll deep dive more into that a bit later on. Okay, so now we are going to break down the primary content focus of every email, or just put simply, what type of content to be sending out in your welcome series. So again, we want to keep in mind that people here, they're aware of your brand, they are interested in your brand, and now we're taking them through the consideration point of view all the way down to the purchase section of the marketing funnel. So with this one, it is incredibly important for you guys to really kind of brainstorm and have a think about what type of content you guys need to send. And there's a couple of ways that we do this. It is going to be very brand specific, but this is the exact framework that we use across all of our clients to have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in the welcome series alone. So to start off, right, there is 2 main types of content, right? There's a nurturing and then there's also informational. So both of them are going to help you convert customers, but you really have to find that right balance, right? Because if you just send content, then people aren't really going to be interested to buy because there's a bunch of information that they're missing. But then if you just send very kind of morbid, bit mundane, informational content, then people aren't really going to be hyped or interested about your brand. So you really need to find that right balance between the two. So the good place to start is to actually figure out what the 2 or 3 core reasons why your customers find your brand and then turn that into content. So for example, right, Apple and Samsung. If you are a person that is using an iPhone, you might like it for a variety of reasons, but for most customers of Apple, it's basically, is it going to come down to the simplicity? Is it going to come down to the integration of apps, right? Is it going to be all your friends are on iMessage and all your friends are using FaceTime? Or if you're on the Samsung side or the Android side, then you might like it because of customization. You might really enjoy Android products because you want to jailbreak your phone or something, right? There's different reasons for everyone, but typically when you really break it down, there's going to be, I would say, 2 or 3 main reasons why you fit into either camp, right? Either Samsung or Apple. So you want to identify what those core reasons are going to be for your brand. So from there, you also want your emails to handle any key concerns or objections people might have before they purchase from you. So this is going to be pretty hard to illustrate without using direct examples. So what I've actually just prepared here is just 3 of our clients and some of the content that we've included in our welcome series for them, because these are crucial bits of data that their customers need to know on their marketing journey. So for example, number 1, with a ring brand, here's how to find your ring size, right? Because if you're in the market for a ring, you want to make sure that your ring actually fits. Because if it doesn't fit your finger, then it's just going to fall off. So we send them a very detailed guide, or we send them a link to the website that gives them information on how to measure their ring size by themselves at home. Or two, for an automotive brand that we work with, here's how or here's where to fit your ute accessories, right? Because if I'm spending thousands of dollars as a customer, because I want to get a ute canopy, or I want to get some add-ons for my ute, I need to actually make sure that they fit. Or if I can't do it myself, I need to know where to go so that I can fit them. So again, this is another key objection that someone browsing for ute accessories might have. And then lastly, just as this example, is a natural cleaning brand. So for here, if you're a person who's browsing for natural cleaning products, you actually want to make sure that your natural cleaning products are just as effective as what you're using already, right? So again, very, very key kind of concern or objection that we want to handle inside of the welcome series. But from there, again, these are brand specific, but some examples of content that are going to be applicable to essentially every single brand is going to be an email from the founder, or maybe like your founding story if you don't want to be like the face of your brand or anything like that. From there, you can also do the brand vision. So for example, for a natural cleaning brand, maybe your brand vision is in the future, every household in your nation is now using natural cleaning products, which is more sustainable for the environment, right? That would be something like a brand vision. From there, again, something pretty generic, but very, very informational, very good to know as a customer, is what actually is your shipping policy? What's your return policy? Do you have a guarantee for your brand, right? So for example, again, Amazon, right? Huge selling point, which is next day prime delivery, and it's free, right? So that's something that Amazon will absolutely have plastered everywhere because it's a very key selling point that they have as a brand. From there, your USPs, right? What are your unique selling points? What makes your brand actually different to your competitors? This is definitely worth having a whole email just focusing on this section alone. From there, a little bit more social proof type content. So for example, transformations, if you're selling something, let's say in the fitness industry, you'll absolutely want to have some transformations. You might want to have some before and after. So if you're selling, for example, a cleaning product, you can show people mold in your bathroom, and then afterwards showing how when they use your product, now the mold is gone. Testimonials as well. So for example, let's just say you're a brand that's selling XYZ product, right? Let's say like a bathrobe or something. Now you can get testimonials of people saying how they love your bathrobe, how they're so warm in winter, how they're really cozy after taking a shower. These types of testimonials also do great. Bestsellers, this is also one that we like to use just because, again, this really does help people with that buyer journey and help them come to their own purchasing decision. And then from there as well, educational content is always going to be useful, but educational content, it's a bit of a specific one, right? Because it's always going to be dependent on your brand. So for example, if your brand solves a specific problem, let's just say it's like a cleaning product, right? Again, I keep using cleaning products, but that's just like the easiest thing that comes to mind. You want to actually be educating your customers about things within that cleaning product, right? Maybe like the ingredients you use, or maybe about the formula that you use, right? You want to really push how you guys have figured out some sort of unique formula that's never been discovered, right? You want to educate your prospects or your customers about why your product is the best. Or potentially if you're a pet brand and you're selling pet supplements, you want to be telling people exactly what it is that your products might do. But the thing with educational content is it doesn't necessarily need to just be about your products, because that is, I guess, a bit more of a hard sell. But what you can do is you can educate your customers about things that are related to your products. So in the example of pet supplements, instead of saying, "Hey, our pet supplements do this for you," you can actually just tell your customers, "Hey, here's a blog post about, do you need to walk your dog every day?" And that would definitely classify as educational content. It's engaging, it's relevant to the customer. So this is a couple of examples of educational content that you might want to try out for your brand. But again, within each content type, you'll actually be able to subcategorize these into different content pieces, right? So these are kind of like the overarching ideas, but then within them, you can kind of really deep dive depending on what's going to be more relevant for your brand. So, for example, maybe with a USP, one of your USPs might be you guys have super quick delivery, right? So it might actually be another content piece for you to explain why you have such good delivery, right? If you are a person who is purchasing band-aids and you need that for the on the same day, then you can advertise like, well, we have 2 hour delivery because we don't want you to bleed out or something like that, right? So you can actually also mix these content types together to create a more compelling email. So let's just say, for example, one of the easiest mixes that we like to use is you might do something like a USP, or you might do something like shipping, and then you might combine that with testimonials, right? So let's say you have an email dedicated to your shipping return policies or your guarantee. At the bottom of that email, you might actually mix it with testimonials that are related to your other core content theme. So let's say you advertise really fast shipping, you have a whole email around it. Towards the bottom of that email, you want to be putting in your testimonials, your reviews of people complimenting you on how quick your delivery is. So that email now becomes stronger because there's several layers to it. So the key here is really you want to be providing interesting, engaging content to your customers, but then you also want to be providing CTAs to give them the opportunity to buy, because there's no real set email, there's no real set switch that is going to be the missing piece for a customer to buy. It's actually quite impossible to know. So we want to give this information, again, across the 4 to 7 emails that we include for them across the welcome series. And in every email, we just want to have a CTA because of that email or that piece of content or that bit of information might be the missing link that they need to buy. So this is a bit of a roundup of content. Again, it's incredibly important to actually figure out what's the most important for your brand. What I would do is I typically brainstorm anywhere from 10 to 15 pieces of content, and then we chop that down all the way to anywhere from 4 to 7 key pieces of information that is crucial for your customers to know to before they make that purchase. So that's kind of it for the content section. From here, we'll get a bit more into, I guess, the technical kind of side of strategy within Klaviyo. Coolies. So by now, you should have a pretty good idea of how many emails to include. Again, we want to do anywhere from at least 4 emails all the way up to 7. Typically, the longer your welcome series, the more revenue you're going to generate. And then from there, we also now have a good idea of how much content we actually want to include, or the type of content we want to include in your welcome series. So from here, let's kind of break down the strategies and the kind of Klaviyo logic that you want to be using in your welcome series. So starting off with the timing between emails, if your products are lower ticket, and we classify that as anything under $200, or if it's like an impulse purchase, right? If it's like a $10 fidget spinner or something like that, right? You want to be reducing the timing in between your emails. So maybe for your first 2 or 3 emails, you might want to do anywhere from 1 to 2 days in between emails. And then as you go further down your welcome series, then you definitely want to be doing that 2-day mark. But if your products, if they're higher ticket, we classify that as anything from $200 all the way up to $1,000. Or one of our clients is very high ticket, selling $3,000 products. Or maybe your products might require a little bit more product knowledge. Maybe it needs a bit more product education to actually nurture your prospects to buy. This is when you use anywhere from 2 to 3 days per email. And again, as a standard rule of thumb, for your first, I would say 2 to 3 emails, you typically want them to be shorter. And then as they go down the flow, then we want to be including higher delays in between emails, up to 3, maybe even 4 days. So the whole welcome series, this should be delivered within 3 weeks. And this is just to ensure that you stay top of mind. So just keep this in mind when you're actually designing your own welcome series. So now going down to the Klaviyo logic and the settings to use within Klaviyo. So the big thing that Okay, so now the big thing that you want to do and that you want to consider when you're making your welcome series is you want to actually tag people specifically that go through your welcome series inside of Klaviyo. So this is very simple to set up and it helps you to let you know how actually effective your welcome series is. And what this also does is it allows you to segment people inside of the welcome series out of any campaigns or additional marketing. So once they exit the flow, you want to make sure that you remove the tag. So just very quickly showing you what that might look like. When someone subscribes to your newsletter, you want to update their profile property right here. So you want to create a new property. You then want to go in flow and you want to put this as text and just put it as welcome series. So this basically just, again, it lets us know that someone has signed up with the pop-up and now they are in our welcome series. And when you go all the way down, what you want to then do is you want to update the profile property and you want to remove that existing property called inflow. So this allows us, again, so when we're sending out campaigns, if we're sending out a campaign about your best-selling product, but you already have best-selling products as part of your welcome series, you don't want to be sending the same type of content to your welcome series people because this also might convolute the message. Maybe they start receiving double content. It's not usually a great look. So that's why we do that. Okay, and then from here, you also want to be splitting your customers based on purchase. So are they a new customer? Are they a returning customer? Have they purchased from you before? We talk to each customer a little bit differently, but the main thing that we do is we actually send them different content. So again, this is very simple to set up within Klaviyo. All you have to do is just create a conditional split, and then you just want to do it for placed order. So you want to make sure that if you're using WooCommerce, you use WooCommerce. If you're using Shopify, you use Shopify, Magento, or whatever platform you might use. You just want to switch that over to the placed order conditional split, and then just put it for at least once over all time. So what we like to do is if they are a new customer or if they are an existing customer, we'll still send them the initial code. But for your brand, potentially you might only want to send your offer to new customers, right? And if they're an existing customer, then they don't get to use whatever your offer code might be. So from there, what we'll actually do is if they are a new customer and they haven't opened that first email, we actually resend that first welcome series email with their offer to them, but under a different subject line. So we use a different subject line because that kind of passes basically every email service provider, and it makes them think that we're not spamming them or double sending them the same email. But again, you want to really remind this customer base that they signed up for your offer, which is why we want to send it to them, because that's what helps them convert. And you've also created, you've also spent all of this time creating that first email. So you don't want to let that effort go to waste. Send it again to people that are new on your email list. So to do that, again, very simply, you just want to set up a conditional split. If the person has opened the email, and then you need to choose this email right here. So to get the tag for that, you just open up the campaign. You get this little section up here, right after /campaign, and then you put that little code right here. And then you want to do opened email where message equals that little code at least once since starting this flow. So very simple. And then you want to, again, send the same email, but with a different subject line. And then again, in this example that we have here, we are going to be introducing the brand to new customers, right? Because if they're already an existing customer, they already have a pretty good idea of who we are. Maybe they already know who the founder is. So we only want to be sending this content to new customers because this is additional information that's going to help them purchase. For a repeat customer, if they're signing up to your email list again, they probably don't actually need to know what the brand is or who you guys are or who the founder is again. So I do want to take a little bit of a pause here just to let you know that if you are a brand owner, you're doing over 60K per month, and you're still watching this, you've gone through some of our content, the timing, how many emails to include, the Klaviyo logic, the settings of the emails, and you might find this either too confusing or maybe too time consuming, or maybe your team actually just doesn't have the capacity to do this in-house. visit our website, hamiltonemails.co. You can also follow the link in our description and book a call with us to see if we can help you. So we do average 19 times client ROI, and our strategies in 2023 so far have generated well over $2 million in revenue for all of our clients. So we do completely handle your end-to-end email marketing for you. All you actually have to do is to approve marketing material before it goes live. So just quickly showing you our page here. So again, hamiltonemails.co, link is in the description. But you'll see here how to get a minimum of 7x ROI every month with email marketing. You can see here just some of the results that we've got for other clients, some testimonials. We've got a client interview here with how Scooch tripled their email revenue with us in just about 60 days. You can see some of the results that we've got. And then you can also see some of the work that we've done for our clients most recently. And this was an amazing project that we did with Blonde. And then on the bottom here, you'll just find a Calendly where you can book a call. Again, we'll just break down the strategy for you. We'll tell you if we can or we can't help you. But if you're not doing over 60K a month yet with your brand, that's completely fine. What I'd recommend then is just go through our YouTube channel, because we do drop a lot of game about how we actually get these results for all of our clients for you to learn yourself. So now going back to optimizing your welcome series over time, because this is going to be a very crucial point for maximizing the revenue in your flows. Alrighty, so now let's actually go into optimizing your welcome series, or honestly any of your flows over time. So once you've been running your welcome series for at least 4 weeks, and typically we recommend anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks at least, this is the point where you're going to have enough data. You're going to be able to make actually really informed decisions on optimizing your welcome series, or again, any of your flows. So in this section, we are going to go through the why you want to optimize, when to optimize, how to optimize, and the key metrics that you actually want to focus on when making decisions. So why optimize your flows, right? So despite what many agencies that you've worked with in the past might think, flows, they really aren't just like set it and forget it, right? Like optimizing your flows, this is how you slowly but surely increase your email revenue. So to give you a bit of an example here, if you're a brand, you're doing 100K per month, every 1% of email revenue brought in by your flows is going to be an additional 1K per month. And if you optimize your flows by 5%, that is now 5K per month, which over the course of a year is going to equal an additional 60K for your brand. So it's a lot of money on the table that we don't want to be just kind of leaving there. So your welcome series, it is always going to be your highest revenue generating flow, which is why we always want to optimize this first. And all optimizations here, it's honestly just going to be the highest leverage for your brand. So when to actually start optimizing? Once your welcome series has over about 1,000 successful deliveries, or maybe you've been running it for at least 4 weeks, this is when you can start optimizing your welcome series. So you want to be making optimizations at least once every 2 to 4 weeks. And this is just to ensure your welcome series is performing healthily. And again, you want to make sure that over time, over a long enough period, your welcome series is actually generating more and more revenue for your brand. So how to actually properly optimize your welcome series. So the best way, the way that you've probably heard, it is going to be A/B testing. But again, you only want to be doing one A/B test at a time. There's no point running like 25 different A/B tests, because then at that point, you don't know what's going to actually, you don't know what change has caused the increase in revenue. So to kind of start off, the highest leverage thing that we always would want to test first is actually going to be your offer, right? And specifically your pop-up offer. So again, if you need help with your pop-ups or getting people to opt in into your email list, we should have a video for that in the video description below. But with your offer, right, let's say you're a brand and you're offering 10% off. You might want to split test that with $20 off, right? So if your average order value is $200, 10% and $20, it is going to be the same offer, but the way that it's perceived is going to be different. And you might actually be surprised by the results that you get in terms of opt-in rate with that. And obviously, the more people that opt in for your pop-up offer, the more people are going to go through your welcome series, and the more traffic in that welcome series, the more revenue it is going to generate. And then from there, what you can also try is different subject lines. You can A/B test that with different preview text. So with your subject lines, get creative with it, right? If you're saying, thank you for subscribing, it's probably not super interesting. But if you start saying things like, welcome to the club, maybe that actually performs better for you. Or even with the preview text, you want to play around with them. You can swap your subject line with your preview text. Again, that's a very simple A/B test to do that has yielded some pretty great results for us. From there, you can go into the types of content. So again, I'm just briefly linking back to an earlier section of the content focus, or the type of content to include in your welcome series. With the types of content, right, let's say for your third email, you're sending your social proof. So if you're a brand and you have before and afters, that might be a little bit more effective to A/B test with testimonials and social proof. Or let's say towards the end of your flow, this is maybe when you start pitching your best-selling products, or this is when you start pushing products. It might be actually a really good A/B test for you to start going into your best-selling products versus your new arrivals or your new products. And this type of content typically works well with fashion brands or any brands really that work or revolve around drops and hype. So again, if you're, Gucci or something, it might actually be more interesting for your customers to say, these are the latest Gucci products versus these are the best-selling Gucci products of all time. You might want to A/B test that and actually see what works better for you. Another great A/B test that you can do is sending times. So let's say, again, in between your emails, you're currently testing 2 days in between each email. Maybe you want to extend that slightly to 3 days in between emails. Maybe you want to try 4 days in between emails. Or maybe you want to make it shorter and try 1 day in between emails. This would be, again, a very high leverage A/B test. And then lastly, you can also just do content angles. So with content angles, again, you can kind of pitch the same idea, but then just use a different angle to get that across. So let's just say, for example, you're a natural cleaning brand. One way that you might be able to pitch that product or that idea is you can really deep dive into how natural cleaning products are just as effective as chemical cleaning products. But another content angle might be natural cleaning products are more sustainable for the environment, right? Or you can do another idea, which is natural cleaning products are safer for you and your family to use at home. So these are all, again, you're kind of pushing the same product, you're kind of pushing the same idea, pushing the same brand values, but again, you're just using a different angle to get that message across. So with this kind of idea, right, these are all ways that you can either extend flows with additional emails. You might be able to change existing emails to another one of these types of tests, or you might even be able to shorten your flows by cutting underperforming emails. But then to do that, you actually really need to understand the metrics that you want to be focusing on. So there are 3 core metrics essentially that you want to be looking at in all of your emails, and that is going to be the open rate, the click-through rate, and of course your revenue. So you want to remember, right, that your first email is always going to perform the best, right? Because this is why people are signing up to your welcome series or signing up to your email newsletter, because they want the offer. So that first email that has the offer is always going to perform the best. So we just naturally expect the strongest metrics here. So for your first email, you kind of want to be expecting at least a 60% open rate. You want to be expecting a click-through rate of at least 2%. Many of our clients are hitting around 8%. But again, if you're doing at least 2% or above, that's a pretty good standard to kind of aim for. And of course, revenue, that's just going to be dependent on the size of your brand. So there's no real major guidelines here. And then every email after this does tend to drop in performance compared to the first email. That is completely natural. Again, people are signing up for the offer. So the first email with the code or with the offer, it's always going to perform the best. But afterwards, with every email after that, if you are getting open rates of 40% or more, or if you are getting click-through rates of 1% or more, then that is a signal for you that that email is performing well. You can either optimize by adding another email afterwards, or maybe in between for this kind of content. So again, if you on your last email in your welcome series, let's say you have 7 emails in your welcome series, and on that 7th email, you see 40% plus open rates or higher than 1% click-through rate, you can add another email. And again, this also applies to anywhere in between. If any email is under these metrics, it's honestly best to cut it, right? Replace it with any content examples of what we discussed earlier, or maybe you want to try an A/B test if you don't want to completely cut it. This is just probably going to be the definitive guide of how to optimize any of your flows, honestly. But in the context of your welcome series, you want to really take this one seriously, because again, this is going to be your highest leverage flow that's always going to generate you the most revenue. So now let's actually go into some examples that we have here that I've just copied over from a client. I'll break it down, and I'll explain the logic behind the actual flow, the welcome series for you guys. So congratulations. If you are at this point, that means you now have a pretty good understanding of how many emails you want to include in your welcome series, the type of content, the timing in between each flow, in between each email, the settings that you want to use in Klaviyo. And now you have an understanding as well of how to actually optimize your welcome series over time. So I'm going to break down this example for you guys of something that we've created for a client. This welcome series performed extremely well. So I'm excited to break this one down for you guys and explain the kind of thinking behind everything that I did inside of this welcome series. So again, if you're a brand owner doing over 60K per month and this seems a little bit confusing, or just, actually doing this for every single one of your flows seems like a pretty daunting task, visit our website, hamiltonemails.co, and we'll be able to see if we can help you out. So with this one, again, this one is a pretty straightforward 10% off pop-up for the actual as the actual offer to sign up for the welcome series. So from this one, that pop-up actually was performing really well. We had well over a 10% opt-in rate, which is amazing. Industry standard would really be anywhere from 3 to 5%. So if you're in that 3 to 5% range, you're doing really well. So from here, again, we want to be updating people as inside of the welcome series, right? And then again, this is just very simply done by creating a new property. We want to tag them as in a flow, and we want to put them as a welcome series. From here, this is where we go into the conditional split. And this is where we actually talk to customers differently based on if they have either placed an order at least once over all time, or if they're a brand new customer, never ordered from us yet. So the first email, the content is pretty much the same. But again, for this one, see here for the welcome series, for the first subject line in the email, we actually straight up tell people what the offer is going to be, right? Very, very commonly, this is probably the biggest thing that we notice whenever we audit new accounts, is that you always put thanks for subscribing for your first email. So again, it's not bad. It's kind of what people expect, but that actually works much better as a preview text. What we found through pretty extensive A/B testing across every client is that when you just lead with a value up front and you tell people, hey, here's exactly what you signed up for, your code is inside, that typically works much better, right? And again, we want to be separating all of the content out in emails because we don't want to be sending 50 different things in one email. Every email should have their own primary focus. So from here, we go into these two emails are basically the same. And one thing that I do want to lightly touch on here is actually just going through smart sending versus UTM tracking. So with the smart sending, again, this probably should have been in the settings section, but there's too much source to put in there. So I'm just going to put it in the live example. But with smart sending, essentially for your welcome series, you're always going to want to put this off. So if you're not sure what smart sending essentially is if someone has received an email from you within X amount of time, they won't receive another email from you. And this is just designed to prevent anyone from getting spammed or anything like that. There are certain emails that you'll want that for, but there are certain emails you will definitely want whoever signed up to your customer list to be receiving. So for example, let's say you put smart sending on your first email. If they have received an email within the last 16 hours, which is possible, it could happen, then they're not going to receive this first email with the offer that they signed up for. It's going to be very confusing for the brand. It's not a good look for you guys as well, because you offered them 10% off, they gave you their email, and now they're not receiving it. So what we do for the welcome series specifically is every email, because again, we really tailor the content to be content that every customer or every prospect that comes into your welcome series, every piece of content in this flow is designed to nurture your customers to buy. So because of that, every piece of content is going to be extremely important. So we want them to always be receiving every email in this. And again, using this strategy of actually tagging people in the welcome series, any content any campaigns that we send out to the email list, we can actually filter people in the welcome series out. So they're not going to be receiving too many emails. They're not going to be getting spammed with emails. And again, they're going to see all of the content that is specifically designed and curated by you guys. That is, again, designed to actually convert them into paying customers for you. And then from there, for UTM tracking, very simply, we always just leave this on. I'll briefly touch on it here, but this is a pretty complex topic to put just inside of this one flow. So, in this one video. So what we always do is we leave it on. This just helps with tracking inside of Google, or maybe tracking inside of Triple Whale, if that's what you guys prefer to use. You always want to configure it, and you can put your customized tracking parameters on. If you have someone in-house that can help you with that, then that would be obviously ideal. But what we do is we always leave it on, and then you'll see also these settings. Let me put this to the side. You'll see also these settings here. And this is basically just going to be helping you identify what email actually brought in what purchase. So again, this is going to be a little bit more applicable if you're tracking your emails via Google Analytics or again, Triple Whale. But you can see here which campaign is it, which email is it, and which flow is it in. And then if you want to add any custom UTM parameters, for example, like a content idea, or for example, if you're doing an A/B test and you want to track that a bit better, you can do it here via the customized UTM tracking. But again, I don't want to deep dive too much into that because it's a pretty complex topic that might need its own video. So from here, again, if you are a new customer and you haven't opened this first email, again, you signed up for the email, you signed up for the code, you signed up for the pop-up offer, but you haven't actually opened that first email. After one day, what we do very simply is we actually just send out, don't forget this, or we send like a little reminder. Content of the email is actually exactly the same. And again, this won't really matter. Your customers aren't going to know because they didn't open this first email anyway. So to prevent double handling, right, you don't want to create a whole new email with all new bits of information, redesign it. You can just reuse the same email, change the subject line just so that it is green flagged by any email service provider like Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo or whatever, and remind them that they have this offer. And again, they signed up for it, so we're just giving them a little nudge and reminding them that they have it. With that alone, you would honestly expect to create a couple extra grand. And again, this is essentially on autopilot for you. So keep it simple for yourself, resend that email after they open that first one. Then from here, after 2 days, again, this is specifically for new customers. But this is where we send an email either from the founder, or this also could be something branded in terms of like the story behind our brand. So if you're a brand and you don't necessarily want to be attached to your brand, so if you're like a person and you don't want to necessarily have your brand attached to your name, that is completely fine. Again, this is when you'd probably go into like the kind of founding story of your brand. But if you are someone that doesn't mind necessarily being kind of like the face of your brand, or being introduced as the person behind the brand, this is honestly a great point where you can do something where you can kind of introduce yourself and build that connection with your email list. Plain text works great here. We honestly really like you doing plain text stuff here. It feels more personalized, and you'll often find that you're going to get a lot of customers responding to this single email alone, because now they feel like, oh, the owner of this brand is actually speaking to me, which is something very unique to email because like you're not really going to see that on like a Facebook ad or something, right? But you'll get that in an email, because it's very personalized. You're saying directly to your customer's inbox. It's kind of like a mate sending you a text, right? So from there, again, this is the content that is exclusive to new customers. This point right here is where returning customers and new customers are now in the same flow. So from here, after 2 days, so because this is a lower ticket brand, a lot of these emails tend to actually go out a little bit quicker because the price point for this brand is around about that $20, $25 range. And the average order value is around $50. So for this one, because it's a bit quicker of a purchase, we have shortened the flows slightly, but because it is a supplement, there actually is quite a bit of education required for this one, which is why this flow is so long. So breaking this down, now we go into the brand vision, right? And how the brand vision is going to be different to like a story of the brand or welcome from the founder. This is going to be much more personalized, and this is going to say, this is who we are, you know, this is the founding story, this is how we were established. But now this is going to be more into the future, right? So versus talking about the past or introducing who you are, this is now going to be talking about, this is where we're going to go, right? This is making people excited about your mission and getting people to jump on board. From there, after 3 days, and again, you've got to notice here, right? After the first kind of 4 emails, now we're extending the flow a little bit, but we're still keeping within around about that 3-week or that 21-day mark. So after 3 days, now this is when we go into the USPs. And USPs, again, you can really do this in many different ways. Here, what we've done is we've actually just said, this is our promise, or this is our guarantee. For a USP for you, you might want to do something where you compare yourself to your competitors or other brands in the space. Or again, you might really want to focus on one key defining feature that makes your brand stand out. From here, after another 3 days, this is where we go into the social proof. So again, social proof comes in many different forms. In this specific email, what we did is we chose the top performing products that people come to us for. And then this is where we started showing transformations. So, you know, this is where I was. And then through this supplement, this is where I got to, right? But again, you can do testimonials, you can do social proof, you can do videos, you can do people using your products, you can do before and afters. Then after 3 days, what we do is an educational email, right? So for this brand, one of the most popular products was called anal glands. And they had a blog post on their website about anal glands, why it's important, how to identify it, and which is a very common issue with pups or within this niche. So we take advantage of that, and people are naturally drawn to the brand for this issue. So we send them content designed to convert them on it. And we say, hey, we want to position this brand or this client as the experts on this particular problem that a lot of customers come to them for, right? So we show them the blog post. Again, this email, it's not necessarily designed to sell necessarily, but this email gets a lot of clicks just purely because people are very interested in this topic. And it also primes them to purchase for later emails. And then after another 3 days, if by now no one has purchased through this email, which is honestly pretty unlikely, this is when we start more so guiding their purchase decision. So now this is when we start going, hey, these are the best sellers of this brand. Or again, if you're a brand that relies on like product drops or hype, you can say, hey, these are the arrivals for this brand. But again, you want to kind of end off your welcome series with something that guides your customer's purchase decision. So you want to say, hey, check out these products. Because again, if they've gone through 21 days without purchasing any product, and if they've gone through, almost 3 weeks without purchasing a product, it's probably not that they're not interested in your brand yet, because obviously they've signed up, they've shown that interest as we discussed earlier. But now it's more just they can't find something that is actually going to be relevant to them, right? So there might be a key missing piece that we haven't specifically addressed yet in the content of each email. So now we are just going to actually show them, hey, these are the kind of best-selling products that a lot of people like. And again, this is probably where you're going to see a little bit of a spike in sales compared to maybe some earlier emails if they haven't purchased up until this point. And then lastly, again, we just wait a day. Then after that, this is when we remove the property that people are inside of the welcome series. So now they're eligible to receive other campaigns or maybe some other flows as well. So this was a pretty extensive example. It was a good example to show you guys just because of the different types of content, a little bit of the game as well in terms of the timing that we did, and also just so you guys get a bit of an understanding of the thinking behind using smart sending for this. Because again, these are all 7 emails, but we want every customer that goes to the welcome series to receive each email because we have very specifically curated each piece of content to nurture them to convert into a purchase. So hope that one helps. And now, before we end off this video, we'll just do a little bit of a roundup so you guys get a good understanding of everything that you've learned. So we've gone through a lot of information inside of this video. So just as a little bit of a roundup, I do want to quickly and concisely give you guys the info just in this little doc here as well, which I will be linking inside of the description below, but at least you will have this as a reference if you ever need to refer to it again later on. So as a bit of a roundup, number 1, you want to have anywhere from 4 to 7 emails in your welcome series, right? And then from there, we want to be identifying the key information that your customers need to know before purchasing from you. And then some content examples that you might have or you might want to include in your welcome series. Have an email from the founder or maybe a founding story, your brand vision, your shipping, your return policies or your guarantees. What actually makes you guys different from your competitors? Any transformations, before and afters, testimonials. I would kind of just bucket this into social proof, but just to give you a couple content examples there. Your best sellers or maybe new arrivals, and then any educational content of people that people might need to know before they purchase from you. From there, if you're a lower ticket brand, and again, we classify this as impulse purchase products or anything under $200, use 1 to 2 days in between each email. If you're a higher ticket brand, and we classify this as $200 to $1,000 or even higher, use 2 to 3 days in between. And after emails 3 to 4, you want to extend the timing between each email, just keeping in mind that you want your whole welcome series delivered within 3 weeks. From there, in terms of the settings, you want to be tagging people on your welcome series so you can filter them out of any other flows or any other campaigns. You want to also split your list based on customers and non-purchasers. All right, so you want to talk to them a little bit differently. Just nurture the content very slightly using the tweaks that I showed you. From there, you want to resend your first email to any non-openers of that first email. And this is only specifically done for non-purchasers. And then for smart sending, for the welcome series specifically, you do want to have it off for every single email because again, we've curated the message very specifically to get them to convert. And then for your UTM tracking, you want to leave that on for every email. Whoever is tracking your data or your analytics internally will thank you for this. From there, when you come to optimizing, every 1% of additional revenue is going to be absolutely crucial for your brand, which is why it's important to optimize. And you want to optimize your welcome series after it's been running for at least 4 weeks or has at about 1,000 successful deliveries. And you want to be doing an optimization at least every month or so. From here, you want to be A/B testing one thing at a time. Only one thing, because if you do too many, you're not going to know what actually caused the change or the increase or the decrease in revenue. So from here, you want to split test either the offer, which is your pop-up offer. You can split test subject lines, preview text, the types of content, the sending times, the content angles. And we want to remember that for the first email, we are aiming for at least 60% plus open rate and 2% click-through rate on that first email. And then you also want to be aiming for at least 40% plus open rate and at least 1% click-through rate on every email from there. So from here, I do want to end off by letting you know that if you are a brand owner, you're doing over 60K per month in revenue, and you want a guaranteed 7x ROI on your email marketing, but you might not have the time, you might not have the capacity to run these emails yourself, book a call with us and see if we can actually help you. So we completely handle your end-to-end email marketing for you. This is going to include your deliverability, making sure that you're not landing in spam, you're landing in the primary inbox right where you want to be. We handle your segmentation, so you're not just blasting your entire email list with emails. We want to get so we'll organize your weekly campaigns for you, and we'll create all your flows, optimize it, test it, figure out the campaign content to also include. And that's just not going to be limited to your welcome series, obviously, but for every flow that we handle for you. Your role with us is literally just to approve marketing material before it goes live. So visit our website, hamiltonemails.co, or you can just follow the link in the description. We average 19x in client ROI, and our strategies have generated well over $2 million in client revenue in 2023 so far. So again, just quickly showing you our website here. We literally just break down exactly what we'll do for you. You can learn how to get a minimum 7x ROI. You might have a read here of why you might want to work with us. We have client testimonials here. This is an interview with Scooch that we did recently, where we tripled their email revenue in just under 60 days. You can see here the written testimonials that we received from brands such as Epoxy or UGlove. You can see some client results that we've got in the past. And then as well, this is literally the formula that we do when we handle your emails ongoing. Here as well, you can see an example of our work. So we've actually worked in multiple different verticals, from cleaning to shoes to fashion to sunglasses to beverages, all the way down to rings. And this was an amazing project that we got to work on recently that was extremely branded and did really well for the client. So scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page and you'll be able to see we have a free 30-minute strategy call. There is no pressure to purchase. We want to see if we can actually help you because again, we do guarantee a bare minimum of 7x ROI for all of our clients. So we only take you on if we can actually get that result for you. We also have our Instagram, our Twitter, and our mail at the bottom here, just in case you want to see us on any other social media. So thank you so much for watching this video. It was an hour long, but I hope you now have a really good understanding of how to design your welcome series, how to create a highly converting welcome series. And if you're not doing 60K per month just yet, that's completely fine. Visit our YouTube channel for a little bit more insight as to how we actually create welcome series and how we welcome series and just basically any email or flow in general, and just how to make sure that your emails are going to be one of your top revenue generating income streams for your brand. So again, I'm Don, co-founder of Hamilton Sales. I'm the lead strategist that designs all of this for all of our clients, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.